Hi everybody, you're live on Lasso Radio and it's 1:30. It's time for the Tech Talk Show this afternoon with me, Kazeem. And today is for those with questions around learning to become a Microsoft Azure developer. So I've decided to title this one, How to Become an Azure Developer, the Learning Path. And I have Labrina Loving with me today on the show to help us with the journey to becoming an Azure developer. Hi, Labrina.
Hey everyone, how are you? Hey Kazeem.
Yes. So thank you for joining us on the show this afternoon.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I am so excited to be here. I'm so excited to see so many people on, and yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to start my morning with you. It's morning over here, in the US, so yeah.
Okay, okay, all right. So let's begin with an introduction, Labrina. Who is Labrina and what do you do for a living?
Yeah, Labrina Loving, I have a new role actually. I am the director of cloud advocacy for our gaming vertical at Microsoft. So my role today is to help build a community and make Azure cool for gaming developers. But before that, I spent many years as a developer. I started my career as a .NET developer, working with a lot of large companies. And then when cloud came about in like 2010, 2011, I started working a lot with helping large organizations with their digital transformation and moving to the cloud. So I kind of was able to take my skills as a .NET developer and then help organizations build applications in the cloud. So that's a little bit about me. I currently live in the Washington, D.C. area in the U.S. And yeah, excited to be here.
Okay, thank you for that nice introduction. So let's jump right in now. I work at the Lasso CBT, and one of the core services that we offer at the center is IT training. So some of the questions that I'm going to be asking you today are, those frequently asked questions, those questions that we get are frequently asked by some of the students that come into the center. So my first question to you is there are a number of cloud certifications out there, right? We've got certifications from Google, the Google Cloud, Amazon, and of course we also have Microsoft Azure in there. So why should students consider Microsoft Azure above other cloud certifications now?
Yeah, so I will say one thing before
Mm,
I answer. I think
yeah,
it's important to get a cloud certification. I think, of course, I love Azure, but one thing I think a lot of people ask this question because they maybe look at the job market or they look at, they look at kind of the percentage of jobs or they look at, so AWS has obviously the higher percentage of cloud share over Azure. But one thing I will say, don't so focus on those sort of statistics. Focus
yeah,
on building your cloud fundamentals, and pick a cloud. So definitely don't feel like, oh, if I learn Azure and I see a job where they're asking for AWS skills, I won't be qualified. Or if I start learning AWS and I see a job for Azure skills, I won't be qualified. If you
yeah.
understand cloud and understand those cloud fundamentals, those skills are transferable across all three, across all the clouds. So that's one thing. I would definitely say, don't feel that way. Like we definitely in Microsoft hire AWS people all the time. It's actually
But
sometimes it's an advantage actually because we're working with customers who may know AWS or come from GCP or Google Cloud, and we need people that speak that language as well. So definitely don't feel like you're going to be stuck if you pick learning Azure versus another thing. But one thing I would say about that, I think for me, that's special about Azure is that I think it's the community. I think there's a large community of people that really care. And we've got great MVPs that are all over. If you are like wherever you are, there are a ton of great MVPs, which are people that don't work for Microsoft, but use Azure all the time and evangelize and make all kinds of great projects. So there are those things. There's all kinds of great meetups and other events that you can take advantage of throughout your area. And then also I think we have excellent training and learn modules, which we'll talk about a little bit later, that make it, I think, very special. For me, what's always important whenever I'm learning something new is it's important that there's going to be a community around to help me skill up and ask, questions when I'm a new person. And I think Azure and the Azure community is great about that.
Oh, okay. So it would be nice to know the role of an Azure developer. So for those who are newbies, for example, so would you be kind enough to walk us through that? What exactly is the role of an Azure developer? And can anyone become an Azure developer, or are there prerequisites to becoming an Azure developer?
Yeah, no, so first off, no, there's no prerequisites. If you have a desire to learn developing, to learn developing on the cloud, to learn developing on the cloud in Azure, um, that's the prerequisite. So it's just a desire to learn. So I would say the role of an Azure developer is sort of taking those skills as a software developer. So as a software developer, I'm concerned with building web and mobile applications, and actually making really great experiences and building out functionality, and using programming languages like C# or Python or JavaScript. So that's the role of a software developer. Now let's extend that a little bit and talk about once we've built this really amazing web application, now it has to be deployed somewhere so that it can be used by the rest of the world, right? So if we deploy it to the cloud, there's a lot of considerations that you have to think about when deploying things to the cloud. So you have to think about how do we make sure, because the cloud can be a public entity, right? So we need to make sure that it's secure. So you have to think about security. You have to think about some of the fundamentals of cloud is that, well, whether we have 10 people coming to our website or 1 million people coming to our website, we want to make sure that the experience is the same. It's not slow, it's not laggy, and things can scale. So those are things that you have to think about. So I think it's just taking sort of the fundamentals that you have as a software developer, and then thinking about more of kind of the architecture skills for things like scalability, things like security, all of those fundamentals, those kind of design patterns, and applying them to the cloud. So I think, and I want to take this idea of developer. It's not just, may not necessarily just be software. It could be, you could be a data scientist. You could be a database developer. You could be you could love IoT. So there's a lot of different The one thing I love about this space is that the term developer can be pretty broad and it can mean a lot of different people. And the cloud can support all of those different things. So all of those different paths.
Oh, okay. Um, Now, I want you to play the role of a counselor, for a little bit. If somebody walk up to you and, want to, is asking you that he or she wants to become an Azure developer, and the person is asking, where's the best place for me to start? What would the response be for such a person?
Yeah, so I would say if you want to start working on becoming an Azure developer, I think one of the best places to start is going out to, we have a really great set of Learn resources. So it's, and I'll post it in the chat too, but it's aka.ms/learn. And there are tons of resources available to start a path about learning about Azure. So it gives you a way to sort of think about, and I talked about this before, maybe you're interested in being a software developer, or if you're interested in being a data scientist, or if you're interested in being maybe an IoT developer, or a SQL developer or a database developer. You can pick, here's what I'm interested in doing, here's a learning path to start. And it gives you some really great training to start up to give you kind of the fundamentals. And then once you do that, I would definitely say the next step is to, I'm always a big proponent of being hands-on. So you can go out to the Microsoft site and you can get a trial Azure account. Start playing, start learning by doing. Think about a project that maybe you've been wanting to build. Maybe if you're already coding as a software developer, or if you're a data scientist, you've got something that you've been working on. Now you want to be able to share that with the rest of the world. So maybe take a project or an application that you built, try to get that deployed to the cloud, work through that, and then talk about that journey, reach out to people. I'm here to support you if you need anything. So yeah, I think those are the key things that I would say to get started.
Thank you very much for that. We need to go on a very quick break now, and we'll be back in just a little bit. All right, you're welcome back. It's still the Tech Talk Show with me, Kazeem, this afternoon, and I've still got Labrina Loving with me on the show. So Labrina, I know Azure supports many programming languages, right? So I want to ask, from your experience now, is there a particular preferred programming language that an Azure developer need to be proficient in? Or can they just work with any of the programming languages, coding, working with Azure?
No, that's sort of the beauty, is that you can come as you are, come with whatever programming language that you are most comfortable with, and that you're interested in learning. So if it's C#, it's JavaScript, Python, Go, we have things for you that can support you. We have learning resources that can help you. And also, there's tons of community people out there that for every different language that are constantly evolving and expanding the language. And I would also like invite people as another way to really learn. We have SDKs that are written for specific languages. And a lot of that is open source. And so I always encourage people as a way to learn, another way to learn is to get involved in open source projects. So there's a ton of open source projects available to help with our SDK. I actually did a couple. I was teaching myself Go, Go programming language, and I wanted to do some learning. So I took upon myself and did some open source work. So yeah, so I think for there doesn't really matter what programming language. Just come with that whatever programming language you want.
Okay, okay. There are also a lot of services up on Azure. So do you want to run us through some of those very important services that an Azure developer will use often? Just maybe a few of them.
Yeah, so I think a couple of services that you'll definitely use as you sort of start is going to be an app service. So an app service is really the way that you will deploy your web application to the cloud, and that's going to be the first sort of line of defense. So and we have a ton of tools that are built into if you're using VS Code, or if you're using Visual Studio, and you're writing your code. The first thing that you're going to want to do is deploy it. So I would say definitely learn about app services, about web apps. The next thing I would say is also learn about Azure Functions if you're kind of learning, which Azure Functions are really, really versatile, a service as well that allows you to take small bits of code, that and deploy it and deploy that small bit of code. For example, I wrote this kind of small little function, not to reuse the word, that resizes, that actually can tell you what your hair type is. So whether it's like 4C hair or 4A hair, that kind of thing. And so I deployed it as an Azure function. The other couple of services I would definitely say that's really, really important, and I don't know if it's so much services, but just learning, is just learning about DevOps. So learning about there's you sort of building your code on your workstation and then you deploying it into the cloud. And in between is DevOps, which is sort of the whole approach to how code gets from your workstation into the cloud. So learning things like GitHub, or learning things like Azure DevOps will be really, really, really key as a software developer to get started.
Okay, okay. So now let's talk about certifications now for a little bit.
Mhm.
What type of Azure certification would you advise or is suitable for someone who is a beginner, someone who has an intermediate knowledge of Azure, and someone with advanced knowledge of Azure? What are those certifications you want to advise for these categories of people?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think when you're first starting out, it's really, really important to learn breadth and learn breadth about cloud. So you want to learn all of those fundamentals. What's the difference between infrastructure as a service versus platform as a service versus software as a service? What does burstability mean? So I think we have an AZ 900 exam that covers kind of those fundamentals. And then there's some administrator exams as well that kind of take you through like just learning the fundamentals of and it helps you kind of move around and sort of be proficient and get kind of understand the cloud, right? Just it's a, and that's AZ 104. So I would say just as a way to start and become familiar with Azure, I think those two are really good certifications to start. And then I think if you're really interested in being a software developer, we have a developer exam. So and that covers a lot of the fundamentals around building software solutions for Azure, and so that's going to be AZ 204. So I would say though that's a really good exam, kind of in the intermediate, as you start kind of learning more about being a developer. Um, and then I would say once you sort of build, or if you want to learn, or if you want to be a data engineer or a data scientist or even a DevOps engineer, like we have certifications across all of those different things. So the first thing, what I always say, is sort of like I think certifications and cloud and just learning tech in general, it's sort of like kind of being at a buffet. Like first you kind of try just a little bit of everything and you learn just a little bit of everything. And that's what some of those fundamental exams are. And then once you sort of understand a little bit about everything, you build out that breadth, then you can decide, oh, I really like data science. I'm going to focus all my efforts on being a data scientist, and then like go super deep on that. Or I really want to learn, I really love this thing, DevOps. I learned a little bit about it. I'm going to go super deep on that. And then I want to get a certification about DevOps. And then I think when you get to even higher levels where you really want to be able to talk to, you know, CTOs or be able to start actually architecting large scale applications, then you want to look at some of our solution architect certifications. So that's sort
Okay.
of the path that I would take.
Okay, thank you very much, Labrina. There's still a few questions I would love to ask you, but I'm afraid that's how much time we've got on the show today. My producer is already signaling to me that my time on the show is up. So thank you so much, Labrina, for sharing those insights with us on the show today. But is there any last words, from you before we say bye-bye?
No, thank you for having me here. I just think, no matter what path that you want to take in learning Azure, just go out, start doing it. Talk to the community, join a community, and, don't try to go it alone. Like there's so many people here to help you. Um, your journey will be much greater if you do it that way.
So you've heard it from Labrina Loving herself today on the show. So remember, you can subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. So it's the Tech Talk Wednesday on YouTube, and up there you can have a rewatch of the previous episodes. So please, let's continue to keep safe. And from myself, from Labrina, and my producer Jay. So from myself again, Labrina and Chocolate on the in the studio. It's bye bye from us, and let's do this again next week.
All right. Thanks.